Uranus is the planet of revolution and change. Discovered in 1781, at the midpoint between the American War for Independence and the French Revolution, Uranus essentially upset the traditional order of the ancient planets in astrology. Hello, my name is Christopher Renstrom, and I'm your horoscope columnist here on Astrology Hub. And I wanted to talk to you today about the upcoming Sun-Uranus conjunction in the zodiac sign of Taurus on April 30th. Now, Uranus has always been a wild and crazy planet. Did you know that it's the only planet to orbit the sun actually rotating on its side? In other words, its north and south poles are basically aligned with the equators of the other planets. So basically, it's orbiting, rotating on its side. When you add to the visual the fact that it has rings like Saturn, you can almost think of Uranus as an enormous wheel, a wheel in the sky that keeps on turning. One of the images that I like to use with Uranus is the idea of the wheel of fortune, that what's up is down, and that's what's down is coming right back up. So basically, Uranus has this kind of topsy-turvy energy in the astrological chart. It introduces an element of unpredictability and not knowing which end is up, literally and figuratively. But the other idea of a wheel that I want to include with this idea or this description of Uranus is the idea of revolution. Now, we think of Uranus, again, as I just said, the planet of revolution and change. And revolution is the idea of overthrowing whoever is in charge and replacing them with another regime or with another government, or maybe even the underclasses. But at the time that the word revolution was introduced into the English language, it meant two things. One of the things that it meant is exactly what I just told you. It's revolt, the idea of overthrowing an authority or who's ever in charge. But revolution was also used, especially later on in the 1600s, as an astronomical term that meant the complete revolution or orbit of a planet around the sun itself. So revolution was not only this idea of a wheel of fortune, that what's up is now down and what's down is up, but it was this idea of a wheel moving in this direction, that what's come around once will come around again. All right, so what's intriguing about this idea is that Uranus is a planet of unpredictability and upsets, but there's a kind of alignment that's being inferred, that a planet has gone one time around the sun and has returned to the point in the sky where it began. So Uranus rebels, it overthrows, but Uranus rebels in order to align, in order to get it right. And that's basically the way that Uranus is going to work in your astrological chart. It may bring sudden, unexpected events or upsets from out of nowhere, but it's not just to harass you in your life or to plague you with all these problems, but it's in order to get it right. One of the images that I like to use with Uranus, particularly Uranus Sun conjunction, is the idea of an abstract painting. Imagine, that you just bought a Jackson Pollock or a Rothko, and you're going to go and you're going to set it up in your living room, and there it is, and it's looking gorgeous, and you're having a dinner party, and guests are coming over to admire, and then you're saying, look at my Jackson Pollock, or look at my Rothko. What do you think? And then it's like one of those moments where one of the guests leans forward and says, you've got it hung upside down. Now, if you're familiar with Jackson Pollock or Rothko, it's kind of easy to get the painting hung upside down. It sort of like looks the same, but it would be like your party guest leaning forward and saying, you've hung that painting upside down. And you're like, oh my goodness, really? And they're like, yeah. And so you go and then you hang it upside up. Well, that's basically what a Sun-Uranus conjunction does. You think you've set things up in your life appropriately or correctly until some sort of incident or circumstance or event takes place in which you realize that everything's been hung upside down, or that, something that you thought was is hung upside down, and now you've got to go and get it right. And that's basically what a Uranus Sun conjunction does. It's not like a square where it's a crisis or an upset, or it's not like a trine where it's this sort of enlightening moment. It's this realization that you've got it wrong, and now you've got to do everything in your power to get it right. And that's basically what's going to be happening to you with the Sun-Uranus conjunction in Taurus on April 30th. So basically what a Sun-Uranus conjunction does is electrify. It illuminates. It's that light bulb that goes off that you over your head, where you realize, aha, this is the idea, and now I've got to change what wasn't working before. So this is potentially a very electrifying, a very illuminating, and a very empowering moment, this conjunction of the Sun and Uranus in the sky in Taurus. This may be a moment where you throw off the shackles, where you say, I will no longer live like this, or I will no longer accept this situation, or I will no longer resign myself to this position. I've got to be free. And this would be a very Uranian moment. So it could either be a situation that shows up in your life where it's a realization, light bulb going off in your head, you're resolving to take action, to do something, to make things right in your life, or it could be a moment, this being the nature of a conjunction, in which the circumstances themselves throw off the shackles. You might be suddenly fired or terminated, or you break up or tossed out of a situation. And think of the Wheel of Fortune in Tarot. You thought you were on top of things, and now it's been upset, and things in your life are thrown askew. And so it could be like, oh my goodness, this is a fiasco. This is horrible. What have I done to deserve this? Why is this happening? And this is the thing to ask yourself with what transpires around April 30th. Are you being freed from your shackles? Is this a moment of freedom, or is this a fiasco? And what the answer is, obviously, is that it's both, that you may find freedom in a fiasco, or that by establishing your freedom creates a fiasco. So there's this sort of walking hand in handness with what can be this extraordinary moment of release, with also maybe a potential disaster. But should it take a downturn in your life, realize that there is freedom in the fiasco, and this is actually meant to align you to the higher workings of your astrological chart. Uranus's job is to align you with the celestial design of your chart. So the thing that you want to think of on April 30th during this conjunction is this releasing you to become fully yourself, or are you going to have to go and sort of find this? But what Uranus is going to do ultimately is move you from a position where you feel like you had to like the life that you were living into a position where you are finally living the life you like.